taxi medallions were considered a solid investment that are bought and sold on a secondary market. Some in New York sold for an average $1.25 million per medallion in 2013 and 2014. But their value has fallen sharply in recent years due to competition from ride-sharing services such as Uber and Lyft. Some estimate the value of each medallion has dropped to $200,000 to $225,000. As prosecutors look at whether Cohen underreported his income to avoid federal taxes, they're also examining whether he overstated it in loan applications. Cohen has previously denied any wrongdoing. He worked on projects for Trump ranging from Trump Tower Moscow that never got off the ground to a non-disclosure agreement with porn star Stormy Daniels, who claims she had an affair with Trump, and on a deal involving former Playboy model Karen McDougal, who also claimed an affair. Trump has denied both women's allegations of a sexual affair. But Cohen also had his own business dealings including real estate, personal loans and investments in taxi medallions. Yevgeny Friedman, a Russian immigrant known as the Taxi King and who partnered with Cohen in the taxi medallion business, avoided jail time and got 5 years probation when he pleaded guilty to tax evasion in May. As a condition, he is cooperating with prosecutors, who may find him to be a valuable witness as they investigate Cohen on potential tax, campaign finance, and bank fraud charges. His deal came after an April 9 FBI raid on Cohen's home, office, and hotel where he was staying. They scooped up 3.7 million digital documents. If Friedman is able to provide useful information, it might strengthen prosecutors' hands if they decide to charge Cohen. Prosecutors are already combing through Cohen's financial records, including big payments he got from major firms as he touted his access to President Trump after the elections. Also under the microscope is his $130,000 payment to porn star Stormy Daniels, who signed a non-disclosure agreement and claims she had an affair with Trump. The president revealed last week on his financial disclosure that he reimbursed Cohen for expenses related to a payment of up to $250,000. Cohen is under investigation for possible bank fraud. He has said he took out a home equity loan in order to make the payment to Daniels, which he executed through a Delaware LLC he set up in October of 2016, weeks before the presidential election. They are also looking at when the lawyer violated campaign finance laws by arranging hush money deals to secure the silence of women who claimed to have had affairs with Trump. The FBI raided Cohen's home and office earlier this year as part of their investigation into his alleged tax fraud. Investigators are looking at whether Cohen's income from his taxi medallion business was underreported in federal tax returns, The Wall Street Journal reported. That income reportedly included hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash and other payments over the last 5 years. Donald Trump has criticized the probe into his former attorney, calling the raids an attack on our country in a true sense. Cohen caught the attention of the Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office during Justice Department Special Counsel Robert Mueller's probe into Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential race. Prosecutors are looking into whether Cohen inflated the value of any of his assets as collateral for bank loans, the Journal reported citing sources familiar with the investigation. If convicted of tax and bank fraud, Cohen, who once said he'd take a bullet for President Donald Trump, could find himself subject to heavy jail time. That threat could put pressure on Cohen, once known as Trump's fixer, to cooperate with prosecutors if he's charged with these crimes. Cohen was Trump's personal attorney for years and has deep ties to the Trump Organization. He is reportedly prepared to tell Mueller that the president knew about the infamous June 2016 Trump Tower meeting ahead of time and approved of it. That meeting was attended by Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, then Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort and a lawyer with ties to the Kremlin who claimed to have dirt on Trump's presidential rival Hillary Clinton. Trump has denied he knew about the meeting ahead of time. But that gathering at Trump Tower has become a central focus of Mueller's look into what role Russia played in the 2016 presidential election. Meanwhile, federal prosecutors are taking a deep dive into Cohen's business dealings after Mueller's team handed over documents discovered in an April 9 FBI raid. They are looking closely at Cohen's relationship with Sterling National Bank, which provided financing for his taxi medallion business. Medallions are the permits taxi drivers need to operate in the city. Federal prosecutors subpoenaed Jeffrey Getzel, Cohen's former accountant who was responsible for preparing many of Cohen's financial statements. Cohen's lawyer, Lenny Davis, declined to comment to the newspaper out of respect for the ongoing investigation. As of April 2018, Cohen owned 22 medallions in Chicago, and either he or his wife, Laura, controlled 32 medallions in New York City. News of Cohen's talks came just as word broke that jurors in the trial of former Trump campaign chair Paul Manafort asked the judge overseeing the case a question about how to proceed if they failed to reach a verdict on a single count. That in turn led to speculation that special counsel Robert Mueller's team might be on the verge of scoring critical conviction, even if it is on tax and fraud crimes that are not related to the campaign of President Donald Trump. Mueller's investigators prosecuted Manafort. In the case of Cohen, they handed information they uncovered during their probe to the SDNY for prosecution, although any plea deal could include cooperating with the Russia probe. The report on Cohen's intentions followed a series of maneuvers by Cohen that raised the prospect he might reach an agreement to cooperate with prosecutors. These included praising the FBI agents who raided his home and apartment, and stating boldly that he would do what is best for his family. He told ABC's Good Morning America last month that, "My wife, my daughter and my son have my first loyalty and always will." He added, "I put family and country first." Cohen left his apartment in New York Tuesday dressed in a dark suit and tie. His new lawyer, Lanny Davis, told NBC he couldn't comment on an ongoing investigation, having earlier sent signals that Cohen could cooperate. Cohen's hiring of Davis, who has longtime Democratic ties and advised President Bill Clinton, was one such signal. Were Cohen to follow through and plead guilty to any alleged violations, it would come as prosecutors were considering filing charges against him that include bank and tax fraud, as well as violations of campaign finance law, against Cohen by the end of the month, sources told the New York Times. Investigators are looking into more than $20 million in loans which were made to taxi companies owned by Cohen and his family. The amounts reportedly involved only upped the pressure on Cohen, who was intimately involved with Trump as he navigated a variety of business deals in recent years. Financial statements showed that Cohen used his 32 taxi medallions. Cohen admitted the payment was a violation of strict federal limits on political contributions. Prosecutors deemed the payment an in-kind contribution to the Trump campaign since it helped shelve potentially damaging information. Cohen agreed to jail time as part of the agreement. Despite the array of charges, jail time, and restitution, Cohen was not expected to reach an agreement to cooperate with authorities, the New York Times reported. Such a status, if maintained, would spare President Trump from having one of his closest and most knowledgeable associates aiding an inquiry the president has termed a witch hunt. Nevertheless, Trump faced the political prospect of seeing one of his closest longtime advisors go to jail over serious federal crimes. Just as the news broke on Cohen's plans, the White House was holding a press call on Trump's plans to travel the country in support of Republicans. Prosecutors in Cohen were negotiating with a man involved in myriad business and political deals involving the president, including the negotiation of a non-disclosure agreement with porn star Stormy Daniels, and talks on an effort to build a Trump Tower in Moscow that fell through. However, the New York Times reported Tuesday afternoon that the deal did not include an agreement to cooperate. Cohen in June resigned his post as deputy finance chair of the Republican National Committee once it came out he was under criminal investigation. Cohen's lawyer Lanny Davis tweeted Tuesday about his client, "Today he stood up and testified under oath that Donald Trump directed him to commit a crime by making payments to two women for the principal purpose of influencing an election. If those payments were a crime for Michael Cohen, then why wouldn't they be a crime for Donald Trump?" Justice Department guidelines state that a sitting president shouldn't be charged with a crime while in office, although they could be subject to a court challenge should the government decide to do so. Numerous legal experts say Trump most likely will avoid getting charged with anything while in office, though he could be charged after he leaves and he could be forced to give testimony in legal matters. The charging documents describe Individual 1 as being closely involved with Cohen's efforts. It says Cohen coordinated with one or more members of the campaign, including through meetings and phone calls, about the fact, nature, and timing of the payments to women. Cohen as part of the plea gets jail time of up to 4 years, in a deal that apparently does not include cooperating with special counsel Robert Mueller's probe. Nevertheless, some legal experts were not ruling out cooperation, and he was facing more charges than he pleaded to. Cohen appeared in federal court on Tuesday following a series of reports he would plead guilty to federal crimes that would land him in jail for up to 4 years. According to U.S. Attorney Robert Khuzami, Cohen failed to report income of $4.1 million, costing the U.S. Treasury approximately $1.3 million. He failed to disclose $14 million in debt when he applied for a home equity loan he used to get funds to pay the porn star. Khuzami also laid out Cohen's campaign finance guilty plea as it related to Daniels and McDougal, though he never mentioned the name of the president or the porn star. In addition, what he did was he worked to pay money to silence two women who had information that he believed would be detrimental to the 2016 campaign and to the candidate and the campaign, Kazami said. In addition, Mr. Cohen sought reimbursement for that money by submitting invoices to the candidate's company which were untrue and false. They indicated that the reimbursement was for services rendered for the year 2017, when in fact those invoices were a sham. He provided no legal services for the year 2017 and it was simply a means to obtain reimbursement for the unlawful campaign contribution, Kazami said. There is no allegation of any wrongdoing against the president and the government's charges against Mr. Cohen, Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani said in a statement. It is clear that, as the prosecutor noted, Mr. Cohen's actions reflect a pattern of lies and dishonesty over a significant period of time. Sources told NBC about the negotiations over a possible plea Tuesday morning, noting that no deal had been reached. Word of the talks followed reports over the weekend that Cohen is being investigated for a $20 million bank fraud. ABC then reported Cohen had reached an agreement with prosecutors in the Southern District of New York. Cohen surrendered to the FBI in advance of a scheduled 4 p.m. court appearance, according to CNN. The campaign finance violations related to the $130,000 payment Cohen made from his own funds to porn star Stormy Daniels, who claims she had an affair with Trump. Trump said in April that he did not know about payments Cohen made to Daniels, although lawyer Rudy Giuliani later said Trump reimbursed his longtime lawyer for the funds. Trump said Tuesday that he felt very sorry for Manafort ahead of his Charleston evening rally speech. Yet he completely ignored Cohen's implication that he participated in federal crimes. He then failed to mention either Manafort or Cohen at his rally. But he tore into the Mueller probe, calling it the Russian witch hunt hours after investigators achieved their biggest conviction yet of former Trump campaign chair Manafort. Fake news. Fake. How fake are they? Trump asked rhetorically. Fake news and the Russian witch hunt. We got a whole big combination. Where is the collusion? You know they're still looking for collusion. Where is the collusion? Find some collusion. We want to find the collusion, Trump said. Trump said he feels very badly for his ex-campaign chairman, who is now facing life in prison after being convicted of fraud. Jurors found Paul Manafort guilty today on 8 of 18 charges in a financial crimes case brought by prosecutors tasked with probing Russian election meddling. I feel very sad about that, because it doesn't involve me, but I still feel, it's a very sad thing that happened, Trump told reporters ahead of a West Virginia rally. The president was in Charleston for a rally on Tuesday that was supposed to pump up his base and energize voters in West Virginia to support Republicans. But back-to-back blows in the criminal cases of Manafort and Cohen cast a shadow over Trump's travel, though, and the president appeared unusually downtrodden. Walking over to reporters shouting on the tarmac about the former Trump associates, the president said, "I feel badly for both. I must tell you that, Paul Manafort's a good man," he insisted. A federal charging document lays out how Cohen helped deal with a person identified as Individual One's relationships with women by identifying stories and keeping them from being published. The documents note that the individual was a candidate for president. Cohen negotiated $150,000 payment to model and actress and made a $130,000 payment to an adult film actress, according to the documents stated the offenses he pleaded guilty to. Cohen caused and made the payments in order to influence the 2016 presidential election, he is admitting. The White House didn't hold a press briefing amid the turmoil, instead confronting reporters only through the safer medium of conference calls. Trump didn't mention it. Davis would not say whether Cohen has already been in contact with the special counsel, which is investigating Russian interference in the 2016 election and potential obstruction of justice by Trump, but said that Mueller will have a lot of interest in what Michael has to say. But even with the potential new revelations aside, Davis said that Trump could face federal charges after Cohen stated under oath that the then presidential candidate directed him to commit a crime, making Donald Trump as much guilty of that felony as my client Mr. Cohen. Cohen had pleaded guilty Tuesday to charges of bank fraud, tax fraud and campaign finance law violations. Why didn't President Trump do this himself? Why didn't he write or sign the check himself? Was he covering up because he knew that there was something wrong in what he was doing, so he directed his lawyer to do something that he didn't want anyone to know that he did? I think the answer to that is obvious. He added that Trump didn't have the courage, or at least didn't want to expose himself politically so soon before the election, so he directed his lawyer to do that which he was not willing to do. So there's a cover-up by our now President of the United States, which is undeniable. Davis said he had no qualms about saying that Trump had directed his client, because the president's own lawyer Rudy Giuliani had thrown his client under the bus by admitting that himself. The word directed came from Donald Trump's lawyers who wrote the special counsel and said that Donald Trump directed Michael Cohen to make that payment, he added. Davis, who said Cohen had reservations about Trump's suitability to be president, told CNN's Chris Cuomo that his client was motivated for his country and will tell the truth. Cohen pleaded to 8 different counts, including those related to Daniels and McDougal. Although he didn't mention Trump by name, Trump's former lawyer and fixer spoke in open court about a $130,000 payment as well as a deal he helped negotiate with a publisher involving McDougal. He said he did so in coordination and at the direction of a candidate for federal office, CNN reported, in an obvious reference to Trump, his former employer. Federal law bars donors from coordinating with a campaign while placing strict limits on the amount of contributions. Both women claim they had affairs with Trump, and both got payments, Daniels from Cohen directly and McDougal from a publisher. Michael Cohen's lawyer has suggested that Donald Trump is just as guilty as his client after he directed him to make the hush money payments, as he warned that Cohen is prepared to tell Robert Mueller all he knows about the president and the conspiracy to collude and corrupt the 2016 election. Cohen pleaded guilty to campaign finance violations relating to hush money payments made to porn star Stormy Daniels and former Playboy model Karen McDougal in the run-up to the 2016 election. Minutes earlier, former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort was found guilty on 8 counts following his trial on tax and fraud charges. On Tuesday evening, his attorney, Lenny Davis, said that Cohen only made the payment at the direction of Trump, making the president as much guilty of a felony. Trump just hasn't owned up to it, but he tried to hide by asking his lawyer to do something he wasn't willing to do because he feared the electoral consequences, he said. And Davis warned that Cohen had been Trump's personal lawyer for many years and so knows almost everything about Mr. Trump. Mr. Cohen has knowledge on certain subjects that should be of interest to the special counsel and is more than happy to tell the special counsel all that he knows, Davis said on MSNBC's Rachel Maddow show. Not just about the obvious possibility of a conspiracy to collude and corrupt the American democracy system in the 2016 election, which the Trump Tower meeting was all about, but also knowledge about the computer crime of hacking and whether or not Mr. Trump knew ahead of time about that crime and even cheered it on, he added. He added that Cohen had information about Trump that would be of interest in Washington and New York State. In another interview with CNN on Tuesday, Davis also hinted that Cohen may have incriminating information about the Trump Foundation. The New York Attorney General has filed a civil suit against Trump and his 3 eldest children alleging persistently illegal conduct with respect to foundation money and using the money in their own self-interest. We'll see if the level of corruption alleged concerning the Trump Foundation is a topic of concern for the New York Attorney General, Davis said after being asked if Cohen could offer any new information about Trump's alleged wrongdoing or criminal activity. We know that the pardon power wouldn't apply in New York State. Davis said that Trump should be prepared to see a liberated Michael Cohen speaking truth to power. And that he was prepared to spill everything about Donald Trump that he knows. It's truth that Michael Cohen is committed to, and it's the truth that so threatens the President of the United States.